Rejob people that are the most severely impacted.
Yeah, exactly. Let's fuck over poor people, but let's fuck rich people more. That makes sense.
Stephen Bonnell, otherwise known as Destiny, felt triumphant after defeating JonTron in a debate, and after which he debated Naked Ape, which some of you may have seen on my channel, but I may have unlisted it recently, or maybe even deleted it, or it might have gotten taken down because I received this notice from Destiny himself on Twitter after I remarked to him that him taking down Sargon of Akkad's videos were DMCA and copyright abuse, and I thought that it was wrong. So his audience initially had a backlash against me, and then a lot of people suddenly showed up to support me, and it's been kind of a crazy bit. So I'm planning on either taking that video down or unlisting it if it doesn't get taken down already. But I wanted to take a look at a fair assessment of the debate. I mean, I was just going to upload and let you guys say what you thought, but since I do have to apply the level of fair use to this video specifically, I figured I would do my due diligence. So let's take a look at the beginning, and we'll kind of just peek in and out. I was attempting to do my best due diligence possible. I know about copyrights, I know about fair use, and I was trying to trim it down as much as I could. And as you can see in my description here, I left a link to the original video, a link to both of the people in the debate's channel, and I also admit this isn't my video, but here is a link to the original video if you would like to see it in its entirety, because there is an extra hour and a half that, or maybe even a full-blown 2 hours, that is included in that clip. So I had trimmed it down, and maybe some people might think it was insignificant, but I wanted to get to the meat of the issue, while at the same time providing that so people could watch it without having to hear what I had to say about it. So I'm going to chime in every so often, but we're going to take a look more concisely at each argument being presented.
Right. Right. Well, you were specifically arguing for an economic migration, saying that any increase in the GDP is a net benefit to the economy. And you saying that is basically you saying that you don't understand how GDP is calculated, or you don't understand what GDP means to the average person. And what I wanted to ask you is whose economy do you think is better, India's or the United Kingdom's, considering the fact that India recently kicked the United Kingdom out of the seventh largest seventh largest GDP in the world. Whose economy do you think is necessarily better?
Okay, so backing up a little bit. Firstly, growth of GDP does not concretely mean that an economy is growing for everybody. There are other ways to measure this. GDP per capita is one, but even that's not a good metric to measure it by. There are tons of other purchasing power, real nominal wages or whatever. Like, there's tons of different ways to measure these metrics, okay? I'm not arguing that GDP has grown, therefore the American economy is better for everybody. What I was arguing was that the entire American economy has grown, which I think can be demonstrated in different ways, and other economists seem to agree with that. So I'm not taking the argument that GDP growth period means economy is better for everybody, because obviously that would be asinine and stupid to say. I understand that. Secondly, the economic activities of Indonesia and the United Kingdom are going to be far different than what's going on in the United States. I do not have an in-depth knowledge of either of those countries, so I'm not going to sit here and tell you which one is doing better or why it's doing better. But I don't see how that's relevant to my discussion about immigration in the United States.
So that's the problem, is that you constantly deflect when you actually are given any kind of analogies, and it's something that I see often from you. And I'm going to say JonTron is not a good debater. Okay, hold
on, just because I have to go one at a time. Well, I got to go one at a time so you don't get.
You will no doubt see these two talking over one another, as I have heard in the past. I didn't know who Destiny was until yesterday, that he tends to do this a lot, and let's see if that happens to be true.
Yell at me. You say that I'm deflecting on analogies. The reason why I'm deflecting on these analogies is because the countries that you're bringing up are not analogous for these comparisons.
I find humor in this as well, because you have to be able to compare some countries to others. And although he is saying that certain countries can't be compared to others, I feel like if you can't compare the United States to the UK or to any other first world country, then who can you compare them to?
So stupid. Again,
I know you. I know that you understand that, okay?
Let me
But if
explain.
you
No, let me
I
explain.
have to finish my point because you're gish galloping the fuck out of me, okay? So
No, you are interrupting me.
I'm
And
not
then
interrupting
trying
you. I'm responding to your first point about not using these other countries as analogies, okay? So if you read any economic literature or you read anything that economists put out when they're speaking specifically about things, one of the really important and careful things that they have to do when they construct arguments is to choose good cities to model economic behavior after. If you're trying to do a comparison of what is the economic impact of immigration in this city, when you compare it to other cities, choosing those controls is sometimes the most important part of the study. So when I'm trying to have a discussion about the impacts of immigration in the United States, and somebody wants to sidestep that and point out Indonesia or the United Kingdom, which are countries that face vastly different problems than ours, have vastly different economies than ours, and have vastly different ways of dealing with things than ours, I don't think that that's an accurate comparison. For instance, in the United Kingdom, you have free healthcare. I'm not gish galloping. Okay, sorry. Response. Okay, so do you disagree with that assessment that these economies are vastly different than ours?
What I disagree is with your argument. So this is what you do. You deflect from my original argument to saying that the analogous is not applicable. And then you just go on this tangent saying facts, bring up facts that have nothing to do with the argument. My point was to say that, my original point was to say that measuring the growth of an economy by GDP is not an accurate way to measure economic growth.
I've already agreed with that, and I never stated that. I've agreed with that, and I've never stated that.
This is specifically what he said.
But firstly, growth of GDP does not concretely mean that an economy is growing for everybody. There are other ways to measure this. GDP per capita is one, but even that's not a good metric to measure it by. There are tons of other purchasing power, real nominal wages or whatever. Like, there's tons of different ways to measure these metrics, okay? I'm not arguing that GDP has grown, therefore the American economy is better for everybody. What I was arguing was that the entire American economy has grown, which I think can be demonstrated in different ways, and other economists seem to agree with that. So I'm not taking the argument that GDP growth period means economy is better for everybody, because obviously that would be asinine and stupid to say. I understand that.
Some people were claiming that he was contradicting himself there. I don't exactly see it, but I felt like we would go back to the point to show you guys so you could decide for yourself. But from here, we should move on in, because there is plenty to talk about.
And again, all you're doing right now is this pointless self-flagellation in order to try.
Dude, Doug, you're literally starting off by strawmanning me. Nowhere in any of my videos.
I understand that. Now listen.
No. You don't understand. You're literally making an argument against something that I've never stated. Never in any of my YouTube videos or Twitter or anything have I ever said if GDP grows, it's good for everybody in the economy. I have never made that statement in my life.
All right. Well, then now we can get into the actual point. And this is
so then for the actual point.
Stop.
But listen, I can't let you. No, I can't have you continue an argument where your premises are already majorly flawed. So we have to discuss the premises.
Shut up.
And this is where things get really fun, because Destiny refuses to let Naked Ape speak, and he gets a little pissed off. Kind of reasonably so, if you ask me. He tries to continue making his point, and Destiny's like, no, I can't have you making false facts, essentially. But it does keep getting better. Keep watching.
Do you think that the United Kingdom's economy is comparable to the United States?
Do I think that's a point that even fucking matters to the argument?
Yes, because you're trying to draw an analogy between the countries. They need to be comparable to do that.
Yeah, but the analogy that I was drawing was the difference between GDP and GDP per capita. Now you're just going off on a tangent trying to self-flagellate yourself, proving some pseudo-intellectual point that doesn't even have anything to do with my argument or the argument at hand.
Okay, now, your initial argument was against a straw man that I hadn't stated, and now your second argument is that you should be able to compare the United States to countries that are totally different than ours.
But out of all civilized societies out there, I think comparing to the US to the UK is about as close as a reasonable comparison as you can find.
And now you're just beating the horse because, again, that wasn't what you said, and you're just, self-flagellating yourself. You're on some moral high horse, so shut up.
We are not even talking about morality. What do you think moral high horse means?
I mean that you're trying to set yourself up on a pedestal. You're trying to gish gallop, and you're trying to argue a point that I'm not making.
You were making the point specifically
that we conceded that was a straw man.
Wait, now, okay. Are you conceding also that you can't compare the United States to the United Kingdom and Indonesia?
So we can't draw analogies to show basic economic truths.
What basic economic truths do you want to talk about?
The basic economic truth is that measuring GDP is not an accurate way of measuring growth in an economy.
You already agreed that was a straw man that I wasn't making, though.
And now you're just going off on a tangent. So stop doing that. That's what you do. It's annoying as fuck. It just proves that you're just trying to just just jack yourself off to your audience. So stop doing that. Let's go point by point and make this argument.
Sure thing.
Right?
What's the first point you want to go over, buddy?
What is your? Well, that was the first point. Now that you've said
so
that.
Now that your first point is a straw man, what's your next point?
Well, what I want to know now that's a straw man, what is your economic argument for the benefit of migration?
And finally, the meat of the video. Took a while to get there. These guys danced a little bit, but now these two great minds can clash in what some would call a spectacular fashion.
It seems to grow the economy in a variety of ways that benefits most of the people living here.
Okay, name one.
Growth of the supply of labor decreases the cost of labor for companies. It means companies have to pay less for labor so that they can offer a product cheaper to people, increases standards of living because more people have access to cheaper products.
Yeah, thank fucking God that we can lower the cost of labor to almost nothing and then get a bunch of slaves to make all the clothes that we wear so that they can be priced reasonably. I think that's a worthy sacrifice, don't you?
That's one way that it helps the product market, I guess. Another way it can help the labor market is when a lot of immigrants move into an area, other workers have other complementary jobs that open that also increase, job opportunity for them as well.
I have to wonder if the reason he is speaking so fast is to keep someone from refuting his points. Think about this. If a bunch of immigrants move into a neighborhood, what does that do to the cost of land? It increases because there's a higher demand, but then the cost of labor is low, so it's harder to save that money to buy a house. Just one effect, anyway.
That's an argument from a job point of view. Overall growth of a country, the overall growth of the GDP, and the overall growth of the economy creates benefits for other people.
Huh, didn't he just get finished explaining that he didn't think that an increase of GDP meant an increase of quality of life in the U.S.? Something to that effect. But there he is, he just slipped it right in there.
He is a part of your argument, so that wasn't a straw man.
No, I'm talking about the economy. I'm talking about the job market, and I'm talking about the cost of goods. I'm not talking about GDP. Nowhere in here did I say GDP.
You just mentioned GDP.
No, I didn't say GDP. I specifically spoke about the job market, and I specifically spoke about the cost of goods. Okay? These are two things that are not GDP.
All right, so let's go ahead and take a look at that clip again, in his own words.
That's an argument from a job point of view. Overall growth of a country, the overall growth of the GDP, and the overall growth of the economy creates benefits for other people.
GDP.
I don't know, man. It seems like Destiny is totally full of shit.
All of these things are impact. So what you're actually saying is you're describing in detail things that basically amount to the growth of the gross domestic product. And the problem
because it's possible to grow GDP without growing either of these things. You can grow GDP without having a positive or negative impact on the job market or a positive or negative impact on the cost of goods.
And how would that be?
What do you mean?
Like, how would you grow to GDP without either making goods cheaper?
I don't know. Think of a way. GDP is just the collective cost of all the goods and services in a society, right? You don't necessarily have to make them. There's millions of different things that go into impacting GDP. I don't know, fucking real estate, there's a million different ways of raising price on something that could impact GDP that don't relate to these two specific things.
So without doing this Gish Gallop thing, which you do to make yourself sound intelligent, talking about these extremely detailed vaguities, can you name one actual economic number that migrants have impacted in a positive way that shows the migration is beneficial? A number that
David Carr did a very specific study on the impact of supply shock of labor when a whole bunch of people came over from Cuba into Miami and analyzed the impact of wages there. And he found that over a trend of 10 to 15 years, there weren't really any massively horrible negative impact.
Yeah, that's actually not true when you're being disingenuous. I know.
Now, this is the moment where you should start taking a look at Destiny's mannerisms, because he starts to realize internally that he's wrong, but won't admit it in the slightest. Naked Ape is more familiar with his source than he is, and he has to look it up on Google. I thought this was really interesting.
That study, and that study actually showed that the instant impact was a decrease in the price of labor and the decrease of wages across the board for low-wage workers. However, after the sudden increase from the Cuban boat lift decreased, there was a gradual amalgamation into the regular economy. So you're basically just wrong.
Okay. What is your background in economics?
That's right, folks. If you don't have a PhD in psychology or economics or political science, you're not allowed to talk about that thing right there. This is a dumb argument. Everyone's able to discuss anything, especially in the internet age where we have access to so much information. This is a cowardly way of trying to take the moral high road.
I'm not going to tell you shit, nigga.
Okay.
You know, Naked Ape, you're my nigga.
I'm parroting opinions from Borjas, who's one of the most respected
Yeah,
immigration
and I've
economists
read
in the
that,
United
and
States.
I have read that study, and that is what it says, and that's exactly what you said.
So,
After the
so
Civil
I'm
War,
telling you this right now,
there was a
okay?
decrease in wages.
If you're disagreeing with leading economists in the fields, I'm not smart
I'm
enough to
not
argue with you.
disagreeing.
That's right, everybody. If people say the world is flat and experts agree that the world is flat, you are not allowed to speak the blasphemy that the world is in fact round. I mean, why would we ever even try to achieve knowledge or truth if one person has already discovered it?
You are though.
being
If you are
You are not
disagreeing
actually
with
read the
leading
study. And here you go, an appeal to authority. You don't know what you're talking about.
This comment of Naked Apes was dead on the nose. That's exactly what he was doing. The authority agrees that this is the truth, so you must believe this because people smarter than me have decided that this is what truth is. No, you should always remain skeptical and decide for yourself after seeing the data.
You're disagreeing with leading economists. No, I am telling you, this is what the study said. The study that you didn't read, that you're just parroting.
I didn't. Okay, dude.
Yeah.
What
You
else
want to bring up the study?
Yeah. What about it?
It's the Cuban boat lift after Cuba.
Yeah, I know about it. Yeah, I read the fucking study. I know about it, right?
Well, I'm starting to think that you don't.
There is a small depression in wages amongst non-high school graduate people for some period of time, but over 20 to 30 years, most of those seem to disappear completely.
20 to 30 years. And here's the difference. That migration was instant and small and stopped. It wasn't this continuous flow of migration.
Okay, but
So
it was
there
also
was
a massive supply of workers. It was a massive supply of workers.
massive
200,000
supply.
people being introduced to this economy. So a lot of people would have made the predictions that like, oh, well, the economy will collapse here. Low-wage workers will be destroyed for generations to come, blah, 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 blah. But for the most part...
Now you're just arguing against a straw man because this is what you do. This is what people also do with, like free healthcare. Oh, Sweden isn't this wasteland. Sweden hasn't been destroyed by God. No. That's not the argument. Again, you're building up a straw man to slap it down. The argument is that migration depletes low-wage earners. That argument is true, especially when you talk about continued mass migration. So,
okay, but I never
even if my point, you read wrong because you don't understand what you're.
So even if your argument does have some truth to it, which it does, okay, massive immigration from low-skilled workers can have a detrimental on hyper-specific job markets, right? In the specific study we're talking about, we are talking about the average earnings of no high school graduate workers, okay, of a certain age group. There were net benefits for the economy that can be measured and are accounted for, right?
Okay,
the entire point... What?
Wait. Name the net benefit. Are you talking about GDP? Because we just had that argument.
How about cheaper labor for businesses?
And what does that cheaper labor mean? That also means lower wages for low-wage earners. So you're basically repackaging.
I'm sorry. Do you know how economics works? What are you talking about, dude?
Yeah, do you know how economics?
Hold on. I need you to take a break for a moment. Hold on. No. I need you to take a break for a moment. Okay? If you were a business and you have to pay your employee like 50 million times as much as another employee, the cost of your final product is going to be higher. Do you not acknowledge that?
Again, what you're doing here is exactly what you do. What you do is you deflect from the point. You say something that sounds intelligent. Is just repackaging.
I'm sorry. No, what I'm telling you is really basic, ultra basic economic.
Excuse me. Let me finish my point. What you did was you said you'll get cheaper wages. You know what? You get cheaper labor. What that also means is lower wages.
Lowering the cost of labor is only beneficial to the people who are already doing okay. The worker is the person who we generally want to look out for. I mean, we do want to make sure that businesses thrive, but lowering the cost of labor is not supposed to be an intended outcome of mass immigration. It is a symptom of it, and we shouldn't be glorifying the negative effects it has on our country, like lowering the cost of labor, for instance.
Are you for or against an increase in the minimum wage? Do you think a $15 an hour minimum wage is a good idea?
No, it's a fucking stupid idea.
It's bigger wages for everybody, though, dude. Why is it a bad idea?
Because it causes inflation more than that is compensated by forcibly increasing the minimum wage. Forcing companies to pay more causes prices to go up, and those prices generally go up more than the $1 raise that the minimum wage earner got.
Well, because it's distortionary to the economy. It
What
doesn't
do you mean?
actually.
And artificially stemming the supply of labor isn't distortionary? Why are these two things different? You're talking about artificially increasing the cost of labor by decreasing immigration. Why is that bad?
Well, because one of them is the market reacting, which deals with human, psychology and the basic market forces, while the other is an arbitrary wage, which is distortionary to the market.
Okay.
And yes, minimum wage distorts the free market, and it's chaotic, and it doesn't seem to do as much good as it should. As somebody who has been affected by a minimum wage going up and down, I can tell you from personal experience that when I got a dollar raise to compensate for minimum wage going up, the price of everything else went up by like 50 cents each. It didn't even out.
So if you're an employer and you have to either hire a worker at 20 an hour because you have no pool of labor to draw from and nobody wants to come work for you because there's nobody there to hire.
I have to stop him right there and we'll proceed, because this is a scenario that wouldn't happen. We're talking about a $20 an hour job, and he's saying there isn't anyone to hire. That is bullshit. With the rate of unemployment as it is right now, there is always somebody willing to take up a job. That's why wages have gotten to where they are.
You got to pay $20 an hour to him versus the minimum wage goes up to 20 an hour. What the fuck is the difference of that to the businessman?
Well, I mean, the difference is where that money is going and who is enforcing it and how the
It's going to labor. What do you mean? Where is the money going?
Well, is it going to Americans or is it going
Who
to
cares if it's who it's going to? It's going to labor.
Because
Why?
I'm an American, you douchebag.
Yes, we want to invest in American products and in American businesses. We don't want to be sending all of our money to some business in China that makes something for a fraction of a cent, because it hurts our economy. And it only seems to serve the top 1%.
And you're talking to me on a computer that you could afford. You probably have a cell phone that you could afford because it didn't cost $4,000 because it was manufactured in a country that can do it at much cheaper prices than we could in the United States.
That's right. Check your fucking American privilege. But to be real, though, that's one of the things that we have to live with. I don't like the idea that slaves make all of our shit, but hey, it makes it affordable for people like me.
What does being an American have to do with artificially increasing the cost of labor?
Funny, it just is here. Just people on the left parrot these libertarian economic talking points whenever it's convenient. It really is, because it also shows how little you understand about the economy. Because here's the thing: migration is not the same as free trade. They're just not the same. So when you were going on this tangent, we can't use Britain and India to show this economic point, but here you are using the same kind of analogy when it's beneficial to you. It shows the kind of arguments that you do. It shows the kind of disingenuous points you bring up.
You're calling my points disingenuous, and when I ask you, and then you literally say, and then you literally have the nerve to ask, you go, how does cheaper labor, what is that, how does that help a company? Do you have any idea how fucking retarded that sounds, dude? How does cheaper labor help a company, dude? Just because they have to pay a less wage, how is that helping the company at all? I don't know, dude, get a fucking job and talk to your manager.
Holy shit, did he just shame this guy for having a regular 9-to-5 job? It's kind of fucked up coming from somebody who plays StarCraft for a living.
Like, what kind of a...
This is why I wanted to argue with you, because I knew...
Because you're gonna sit here and be smug as fuck without having any idea what you're talking about?
I'd look into a mirror, bud.
How does cheaper labor help a company, dude?
Because what you did was you just redefined lower wages as cheaper labor when it was beneficial to your argument.
Because that's what lower wages are, cheaper labor by definition.
Yeah, but lower labor costs, lower wages are bullshit. It's not good for people who are workers. You would know this if you, say, had an actual job.
Oh, so it's cheaper labor when you want it, but it's lower wages when you don't. Also, analogies
Wait,
are good.
what do you mean? They're one and the same. Cheaper labor and lower wages usually go hand in hand. What are you talking about?
There are different ways to sugarcoat the same point. What he was saying was that lower labor costs is one way of looking at it as a positive, whereas saying lower wages is one way of looking at it in a negative way.
Wages lower, the labor is cheaper. What?
Yeah, exactly. And you are only saying cheaper labor. You're not saying it's lower wages.
Okay, lower wages. I'll use that word if you want. I thought we were talking about the same thing. Let me know if I need to...
So you want Americans to have lower wages? And you think that's beneficial for the economy?
Not necessarily. It depends on
there we go! Ha ha!
And if you would look at any of these economists that analyze these markets, you would find that just because you have a decrease in the cost of labor in certain things doesn't mean that the entire labor market is impacted. There are complementary jobs or positions and management that may open up, okay? And you also have a cheaper cost of goods at the end of the day to the average American person. If you're earning a little bit less, but everything around you costs less, that doesn't necessarily mean you're getting fucked. You're giving me this hyper one-dimensional view of economics. Like, I don't understand, like, what is your point?
Destiny is conflating skilled labor with non-skilled labor. Skilled labor, like people who have to go to a trade school, is not going to be affected so much, not as much, by mass immigration. However, non-skilled labor will be heavily affected by it, and that will definitely hurt a lot of Americans. That is not even up for debate.
Well, I mean, like, you're saying that it's beneficial to the GDP, to, the average person.
I'm saying that it's beneficial to the overall economy.
This is very untrue. Mass immigration is horrible for the economy, especially considering all of the social programs that help a lot of these immigrants. It's not beneficial to very many people. It's in a few ways it is, but definitely not in the big picture.
You can't misconstrue my argument and then say, don't interrupt me when I'm paraphrasing you.
Yeah, well, how about you be a polite person and don't interrupt me? If you'll not interrupt me, I'll stop interrupting you. Okay? Can we make that sort of like a generality?
Considering how much Destiny has been stepping on Naked Ape's toes whenever he tries to make a point, I think this is a perfectly reasonable request.
Stopping a douchebag interrupting me, I'll stop interrupting you.
Yeah, go for it, buddy.
So you're saying in general terms that it's good for the average person in the economy, which I'm going to say, like, using this as a number on the paper, the numbers on the paper work really, really well. The numbers going up, the stock market is inflating, whatever. That's a benefit to this person called the economy. Who it actually hurts is low-wage earners. What it actually hurts is their ability to compete in the labor field. And you can say that, there are other management positions that would open up. Well, I mean, that's true with any growing economy. I mean, that's true with our economy right now. What the mass migration does is it continuously depresses wages over a long period of time. And maybe it's good for the 1%. Maybe it's good for the middle class. Maybe it's good for people who don't have to compete for construction jobs. Because, there are people out there who don't have to compete for construction jobs. Heaven knows I fucking don't. Heaven knows you don't. But who it's actually bad for is lower wage people. And I just think it's funny how somebody who's generally on the left is completely okay with fucking over lower wage people to benefit the economy because it suddenly benefits your political ideology to import millions of people.
All right, are you done?
And this is the moment where you realize that Destiny was not only not listening to a word he was saying or accepting any of his perspectives or thoughts, but that he's also planning on kicking him off anytime now. Because when someone's like, all right, are you done? That you're not taking him seriously. You're not listening to them. You're not having a debate. You're just kind of being a smug, pretentious asshole. Not that Naked Ape wasn't doing that a little bit himself, but to say that anyone was a victim in this thing beyond the audience is a bit of a stretch.
Yeah, that's
okay. So an intelligent person coming at this from the idea of growing the economy for everybody would take what you said, look at it, understand that parts of what you are saying are factually true. There are people that are hurt by supply shock to immigration, or by supply shock to labor markets via immigration, okay? There are low-wage workers that are hurt. Manufacturing in America has been hurt by the exporting of jobs to other countries, right? However, the intelligent person seeks to capitalize on the gains, of which you seem to not acknowledge there are any of.
So an intelligent man, not a moral one, would be more than happy to ship jobs overseas and do whatever it takes to make a profit. That's what you're saying, right?
And then redistribute those gains to the people that are hurt to continue to grow the economy for everybody. This is what a sensible discussion on immigration policy is. It is not, we need to get rid of all of these people hurting low-wage earners, blah, 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 but it is instead, we need to find a way to redistribute the winnings from the people that benefit the most off of this type of immigration and redistribute those winnings to the people that are hurt most by it so that we can continue to enjoy lower cost of goods and a growing economy for everybody.
My brain. Okay, so the government should be perfectly happy with corrupt businesses exploiting every tax law, everything they can do to make a profit, but then that's because the government is going to come in and redistribute that wealth. Holy shit.
Yeah, but that's not how it works. You can't just do that.
How?
And
Why?
the reason
How can
why
you
is
not
that
just do that? What do you mean? You can't tax people in certain ways to take advantage of certain types of immigration?
Yeah, it actually requires a lot of litigation and laws being passed and a lot of organization to pass new laws that include more higher taxes, especially when a lot of these big businesses already have a lot of lobbyists and people they pay in political action committees in order to ensure that these things don't happen, like these higher taxes.
You can't charge people higher V for H1B visas or anything. These are impossible things to do.
I mean, you can, but it's detrimental to the economy because what you're talking about is like sort of I don't know the exact economic term, but so I'm going to use philosophical terms. There's a priori and then post priori. So I'm working in the a priori, which means before the money is made, before the exchange happens. You're working in the post priori. So the problem is that before the money exchanges, when you're dealing with market forces, you're dealing with a natural and organic growth of the economy. When you talk about post priori, which is where you are on collecting taxes and everything, tax the fucking rich people so we can give it back to the poor people who we just displaced with all the mass migration, because that makes more sense.
I can't. Can we move on to the next thing? I can't have.
Yeah, I mean, wouldn't you need to know his background in economics before you take his advice? Maybe he's right. No, that's bullshit. You just got proven wrong. You just got proven wrong. And it seems like Naked Ape is a little more intelligent on this issue than I honestly gave him credit for.
A discussion of economics with you. You're not equipped for this discussion. Can we just move on to the next point?
So
I'm not going to argue with somebody that's going to go into like the taxes are evil. Blah. Like it's not a discussion that you're prepared to have.
Excuse me, that's a straw man. I didn't say taxes are evil. I said that they're distortionary because they work against the natural forces of the market. I mean, sure. I understand that you don't know what you're
I understand. All taxes are bad. All social programs are bad. All of that. I understand, dude.
Straw man.
No, dude. I totally get it. No, dude. I'm a classical libertarian, dude. No, I totally. Can we just move on to the next? Can we move on to the next thing, dude?
Yeah. Let's just move on because you obviously don't know what you're talking about.
I know, dude. I can't. I'm too.
So I want to say this is just a final point that we didn't bring up, just for my audience and yours that'll be watching this. The net benefit that I can find for taxes being paid by low-wage illegal migrants is $12 billion, while the net detriment in terms of roads, bridges, schools, etc., is $112 billion.
Wow. So you're not measuring any of the economic growth. You're not measuring any of the benefits to the companies that are employing low-cost labor. You're not measuring any of the. Does this include like sales tax and gas tax paid by these people? Does it like? Are you including any of this? Or are you just getting like raw numbers off of income tax paid? You realize that all income tax paid by people that make less than 10 to 15K a year is almost negligible, right? Like a lot of these people pay negative tax rates.
Yeah. So why would you want to import more people that are going to be paying negative tax rates?
What is that? Truth, reason, logic? Fuck off with that, am I right?
Because tax rate alone is the only way that you measure an increase in the economy.
I mean, it's almost like they're going to be a burden on everybody. They're going to make lower wage earners poor, and all they're going to do is make people at the upper crust really wealthy. It's almost like you're making an argument for wealth inequality.
It's almost like I said, a sensible immigration policy finds a way to redistribute the winnings from the winningness people getting, the most advantages from this immigration deal, and finding ways to retrain or rejob people that are the most severely impacted.
Yeah, exactly. Let's fuck over poor people, but let's fuck rich people more. That makes sense.
This was the high point of the stream, in my opinion, but I think this is the moment where Destiny broke, because look what happens.
Anyway, let's move on to Black Lives Matter.
I can't, dude. I'm sorry. Listen, I enjoy it. Listen, dude, I enjoy it, but you're not equipped to have these conversations, dog.
No,
you got your YouTube channel. I sincerely appreciate what you do. I hope you continue to have success, dog. But I'm gonna kill myself if I have to talk to you anymore. I'm sorry, dude. Good luck with everything. I can't. I'm sorry, guys. I can't. Not with this guy. I can't do it. This is what I feel like the Stephen Molyneux conversation would be similar to this. Like I can't have these conversations, dude. Like I'm gonna end up fucking killing myself. Like I can't do it. I can't do it. I'm sorry. I can't. Maybe we can have Yeah, I don't know. Fuck, dude. We need to play games, play video games, right? That's what we do here. Who the fuck was that?
So, how did this go? I think Naked Ape, and I think I might have said this earlier in the video, is more knowledgeable on these subjects than I honestly thought he was. He might have been a little bit of an asshole, but I think that's part of talking to people on the internet. He was more aware of the source than the person he was debating who used the source. And then that person just trying to high road him, just talk to him like an idiot, like he didn't know what he was talking about, when from listening to Naked Ape, I actually learned a lot. So out of this, there's not much to take out of it except that Destiny might not have a degree in political science or economics, and Naked Ape might. I mean, he told him, I don't have to tell you shit, and he's right. You don't need to establish credibility when you're just having a debate with somebody on Skype or Discord. It's not a problem. So the reason I did this re-upload, I think I might have mentioned this at the beginning, was Destiny reaching out to me and taking down the video, which I have met very mixed criticisms. But as a reward for making it this far, I have a little clip from a stream that Destiny did with Mr. Mediker, where he pretty much said that white people are superior. Enjoy.
I don't know how else to say that. Not everybody is capable of doing those things. Not everybody even knows that they have the capability.
When we talk about who's not capable of doing it, you're saying blacks aren't and women aren't.
Yeah, disparaged communities that are in fucked situations for their entire lives. Yeah, absolutely, sure.
And their entire lives. So you think women are just in a horrible place right now, that they need this right now?
In a horrible place? No, not compared to where they were. Maybe if you go back 30 or 40 years ago.
Life.
No, not their entire lives, but women are
about 30 or 40 years ago.
Women are this is my only point. Women, do you disagree with this, that women aren't pushed towards certain positions? Do you really disagree with that women aren't pushed towards certain types of jobs?
Yeah, absolutely, I do disagree with that.
Then I have nothing to say to you. I would say go talk to more women. I don't know how to communicate to you if you live in a fantasy land. I don't know what to say.
Don't assume. I mean, you're just knocking it off because you don't like my perspective. I'm sorry if you disagree with it, but it's not fucking Fantasyland.
It absolutely is.
Fantasyland is assuming that women need you to come in and white knight them and save them.
It's not about needing. You're saying this. You've already got all the advantages, dog. You can do any job, and you've seen a white guy working any fucking job you could possibly ever want. You've seen white guys in politics and sports, in fucking any kind of economic position, and any kind of fucking technology position, and any kind of fucking business position. You don't have to even stop and wonder for one moment in your life. You've never ever in your life stopped and thought, should a white guy be doing that? Are people going to look down at me? You've never had that thought in your head ever.
How many white guys are in the NBA?
I don't know, less than black dudes, but they're still there.
Well, but maybe if there's equal representation, I'd feel more inclined to try to get in the NBA, right? So, I mean, should we remove some black people and put white people in positions?
I don't think that comparing getting into the NBA is the same as getting people out of absolutely fucked family positions. Yeah, sure, but I'm just saying that, like, I think that there's enough representation in the NBA that if anybody wants to go for it, they probably can do it. Right? I don't think that, like, or maybe we need more Mexicans in the NBA. I don't know how many fucking...
What about the NFL? How many? You think it's more black or white?
Probably more black, I would guess.
So, I mean, do we need women in the NFL and NBA?
Probably not, because now you're getting into athletics where there are hardcore physical differences, and you probably wouldn't want to push that.
Yeah, but weren't you just saying earlier you want women to get drafted?
And serve in the exact same equal capacity as men in every single size, shape, and form? No, I'm not that retarded.
Well, let me tell you something, Haas. You ain't that smart either.